With good morning and welcome back to Nurses Speak. This is Tonya from Nurses Speak, the channel for nurses, black nurses, nurses of color, and open to all nurses. This is a channel where your voice can be heard and no topic is off limits. So like, subscribe, and share. And here we go with another video today. And I just want to address something that came up in the news recently, and it's about nurse practitioners. So if you haven't heard, there was a nurse practitioner in California who was fined $16,000 judgment against her for using the title doctor in front of her name. So this is a nurse with a DNP, which is a Doctor of Nursing Practice degree in the state of California. Okay, so she went before the board, and they found they decided on a final judgment against her of $16,000 because of misrepresentation of herself as a doctor. In addition, she must pay civil penalties, $4,000. So, because in California, if you lose a judgment, you have to pay the legal fees. So she has to pay $20,000 to the state of California due to this judgment against her within 90 days. Okay, so this is California's law. Now remember, I had did a video a while back. This is even talking about travel nurses, nurse practitioners taking on additional responsibilities as some states begin to relax or even eliminate the requirement for nurses to have to be in a contractual arrangement with a licensed physician in order to practice, right? So practice independently is the trend that's, being pushed forward. But at the same time, you must check with what your state regulations are. When you look for in your board of nursing, they will tell you what you can call yourself. In fact, in the case of California, because in addition to the article that speaks about this nurse's case, I also making reference to an article from a nurse attorney. Her name is Lori Brown, and she has a website called empowerednurses.org. And in it, she goes on to explain that, and I'll just want to quote her article to be specific, right? California says a nurse can call themselves a certified nurse practitioner or advanced practice registered nurse, but again, they cannot refer to themselves as doctor. And it also says, apparently the board in this nurse's case relied on California's business and professional code, which allows only a few select professionals to call themselves doctors, okay? And other states have their own restrictions and allowances. So this is really important to note, because if you're going to practice in a particular state, and let's just say you decide to move or practice in multiple states, you need to be familiarized with the laws for the license that you're working under in each state, and only use the titles that are allowed by those states, okay? Because just having the degree alone doesn't mean that you can label yourself as a doctor. All right, now for people who have an issue with that, take it up with the state, right? If that's the biggest fight of your life, take it up with the state, But if you're satisfied to say, hey, I am a nurse practitioner, and put your DNP behind your name, right? Then anybody can find out or ask you what is DNP? And you can explain to them what it is. Because not for nothing, a lot of the public doesn't even know what it means for a nurse to have a doctorate degree. Like, what does it translate into? What does it mean? What additional work have you done in terms of clinical work, in terms of research, in terms of theory development? What was your thesis all about? I mean, these are things that need to be clarified for the public so that nurse practitioners begin to educate and bring awareness to what their practice is all about. Because most people look at that as an extension of the physician role, particularly now that more NPs are going into primary care and you're going to be caring for patients along the spectrum of all ages. You need to be clear and specific. What type of nurse practitioner are you, right? What type of training do you have? And what the patients can expect from you. This onus is on us. And when I say us collectively, I mean the nursing collective, to educate and explain what we do. So essentially, you're giving your patients or potential patients informed consent, right? Is basically what it is, because you're informing them of what you're able to do for them, your background, your education, your expertise, so that they can make an educated determination on whether or not they want you to be their provider based on what you've told them. So let's not walk into this blindly and take for granted that people know what we do. When you start having more and more patients say, hey, I went to see an NP today as opposed to an MD, and it was great. I had a wonderful experience. The NP took their time. They listened to me. They did a thorough examination. They ordered all the appropriate tests. My medications were reviewed. I mean, these are things that have value, right? They provided support to me when dealing with my managed care organization and my insurance issues. They helped me to make sure that I was able to maximize my benefits and get things that I didn't have to pay for, because I found out with their support that it was covered by my plan. Okay, these are things that nurses, nurse practitioners, advanced practice nurses, whatever we call ourselves, can do. All right. So it's up to us. If we want to make sure that the public is well taken care of, if we want to put our money where our mouths have been for all these decades about how great we are and how much more we can do and how much care and health, good health outcomes we can bring, and improving population health, then education is a big part of it. But first and foremost is to educate the public about what we do, who we are, and what we do, and how we can best help them on their health journey. So this is vitally important, and it should not be overlooked, right? And again, just to reiterate, every state is different. So before we get caught up in what we want to call ourselves and hang a big shingle on the front window calling, yourself a doctor, just clarify what it is you're doing first and make sure that it is in alignment with the appropriate state regulations. And if you're not even sure, check with the Board of Nursing, check with a nurse attorney in your state, and get the facts, okay? Because that's $20,000 that this nurse could have used for something better. Maybe some continuing education, maybe a great vacation, something of that sort, right? So a little common sense sometimes goes a long way. And even without common sense, prudence and good judgment will also save you in the end, right? So having said that, there's another very interesting article that I came across, and it was about Jen. This is in Becker's. For all those who've listened to my videos before, you know I just like to read Becker's articles. This specifically one came from Becker's Hospital Review, and it's about 10 things Gen Z millennial nurses want from their hospitals. I might put a link to that article in this chat, as well as to the one about the nurse with the Doctorate of Nursing Practice, just so you could, read for your own background knowledge. But I may do a series about these 10 things because I did read the article, and it's not a new article, it's from a few months ago, but I feel like it's relevant now that we're going into the close of this year and looking at some of the things that, nurses have wanted over the years. And again, from what I read, these things are not new. So we're talking about on-the-job training and support, financial support, respect and recognition. Really, that's not new at all. But in order for me to dig deep into these different things that these nurses want, and this was from a survey done from the American American Nurse Foundation, and Jocelyn Insight did this survey back in March with Generation Z and millennial nurses who belong to the generation born between 1981 and 2012. So we're talking essentially, probably a good portion of them are in their early to mid 20s. And so actually up to about maybe around the age of 40. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that some things never change and many things stay the same. But again, I'll dive deep into that on some future videos and perhaps make a little series out of it. But I'll put a link to this article about this DNP situation. But put it in the comments what you all think about this, whether or not doctorate in nursing practice should be allowed legally to call themselves doctor followed by their name, okay, and then put DNP at the end. There might be some arguments that, hey, professors do it, they have a PhD, they call themselves doctorate, or those with an EDD. The example was also given about the president's wife calling herself Dr. Biden, and she has a education doctorate. So, there's many opinions about this, right? And it's fine to have multiple opinions, but at the end of the day, if you're a licensed healthcare professional, you have to abide by what your board of nursing is allowing you to call yourself, what titles you can use. And you need to check that out thoroughly so you don't mistakenly misrepresent yourself. Okay? So don't make assumptions on that because it can have, costly penalties, as we saw in this case with this NP in California. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention because I think it's important that when things like this come up, we share it. We get the word out so that we know essentially that we need to stay on track, stay focused, stay in our lane, and do the things that we need to do to be in compliance, not out of compliance, so that the masses can just turn around and point the finger and say, look, this nurse is calling herself a doctor. She's not a doctor. She's tricking the public. No, she's not tricking the public. She may have gotten a little ahead of herself and not did her due diligence in checking, but I doubt that, this was meant to in any way deceive the public. So in order to offset that, as I said before, educate. Give people information, right? If you need to, put it on your website, right? Create a little pamphlet or a brochure explaining what exactly is a DNP. What can a DNP do for you as a patient this is something that we need to educate. Because once we can educate and people have an understanding, then it's easier when you want to go to your state legislatures and fight for, the right to call yourself a doctor, if that's something you choose to do, if that's something you feel is of significant value to you, to engage in that struggle to be called a doctor, when in fact you are a nurse, even a highly educated nurse. Then again, you have to educate people on why they need to do that, why that's important, what is the significance of it. Give them a reason to engage in battle with you, right, to get this credential designation. So these are things that, again, it's up to the individual whether or not they want to entertain this, but I'm just bringing it to the audience so that opinions can be shared, right? Thoughts can be shared. As I said before, this is our channel, Nurses Speak. No topic is off limits, and feel free to put your comments, questions, ideas in the commentary on the channel, right? And we can continue this discussion for however long, the issue comes up. But until next time, you be well, take care of yourself, do something great for yourself, even if you have to do it with only or by yourself. It doesn't matter. As long as you're taking time out to rest and rejuvenate. And as I said before, get out in nature. I got my hat on, I got my fleece on. I'm getting ready to hit the park and do my walk. So I would encourage you, if you can, to do the same. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.